I'm going to do a video today showing the property and the areas that we're clearing. A lot of overgrown back behind our house. And I started here behind the bees because soon we're going to get a fence put up around this front part of the yard here and make it a larger area for the doggies, because right now they're in this little bitty tiny fenced off area behind the house. And this was the first part I cleared up. There was a huge limb out of this tree that fell directly behind the bees during a windstorm we had last year, and just got all that cleaned up. Like, you couldn't even see anything over here. It was all just overran with bushes and down tree limbs and vines, and all of this was really thick back in here. So we took out some trees and opened all this up, and we've got stuff growing back up back here, but I did have it all weed eated down. Not sure what this stuff is, but it's about a foot tall now. And then we have the May apples and a bunch of different ground cover, but I haven't even been able to get in here and weed eat this area before, until I just got this cleaned up. We're probably going to take out some more of these little trees, we'll see, but for now this is where we're at. And then coming down back behind here is where we drop off behind the house, behind the backyard. And over on the edge there is our property line. Where it looks clear through there is somebody else's property. And you can kind of see the slope here, but this is pretty much a gradual slope, and we probably drop off about 12 feet or so down here. And I haven't done a lot over here right on this edge. There's still some vines I need to get down and some smaller brush to be gotten rid of right here. But past this, we have finished clearing this whole entire ledge drop off, and I'll get a video of that towards the end as I come back around. But I wanted to start over here because this represents more of what everything looked like before I started clearing. So we've got the really shallow area, and over here, and I didn't even know it till I started looking around and clearing stuff, we actually have a ditch that runs back along the edge over there. So we're eventually going to get that ditch open back up. Hopefully we will not have as much water retention down here, because right now I am up past my ankles, but I have on my water boots, so as long as I don't get too deep here, hopefully I won't be in over my boots. But boy, that's getting close. I've got about an inch left. I might have to go in somewhere else. Walk on my tiptoes. Nope. Oop, there we go. Dadgummit, coming over the edge. Oh well, now I'm wetting my boots. Alright, let me go find someplace else to cross over here, and I'll be back with you. So, past there is where we've started clearing the edge. This little spot, we started to make a ditch that we want to eventually cover and make kind of like a storm shelter back here. And yeah, this is all back behind where we just recently cleared a few weeks ago. Back behind the chicken pens. this was all overgrown. There was a lot of cane back here, and it was 5-6 feet tall and pretty thick. And then we had some downed tree branches, some pretty big tree branches and everything. You can see our little burn pit right there. And that was a lot. I mean, up to that big tree and all the way around was just overgrown with vines and down limbs. And then we came through back over here. I've picked up some of it to an extent, but this is where Michael came through and felled a lot of little trees and went through with the brush cutter and kind of broke the vines off at the ground so I can pull them out of the trees. And still working on clearing some of this. Now this was all overgrown, like where the grass is. You could just get up to this and then really couldn't penetrate that well because of all of the vines and down branches. And this tree right here, I cleared out between all three of these. You could not walk between that. There were massive, massive vines. There's still some of the dead vines hanging up there that I couldn't get down, but there were the big, thick green vines, big as your thumb, big as around as your thumb, and you could not penetrate this. It was, well, I've still got some here I haven't cleaned up, but all these trees close together, can't get through anyhow. But then the vines are just all over the place. And then we've got a fence line here, pre-existing fence line. We're wanting to clear along this fence line and eventually use it. There is still barbed wire on it. Some of the barbed wire is down or cut, but we want to reuse this existing fence line to fence in the property and give the dogs the ability to actually be out here and patrol the yard. But we've got all these trees down, these little saplings and stuff that Michael cleared. And that's some of the stuff I'm working on burning. And then more vines and stuff to pull out of the trees. In the pond, there's a little pond off to my left. And then there's like a little runoff for it to run off when it overflows, when we get a lot of rain. And a lot of that runs off into back here. So this is a lot more shallow over here. But this is still where we're working on clearing, and we'll probably cut down a lot more of these little trees. We want to keep some of the little trees because we want to, have stuff to grow up. As the bigger trees die out, you need replacement trees. But we will definitely be doing a lot of clearing. Right here is some more of the fence. Can't really see it. It's laid over and pushed down. But we're going to work on using that. And then this is the water that flows. And it's a little bit downhill the whole entire way. So if we could ever get this cleared up enough, and then maybe come in here with a little tractor, we were talking about making the trench a little bit deeper, but kind of scraping the soil back so it will make this side a little higher, and hopefully just all of the water go in this trench and mostly flow out the other end. So here is the back edge, and this is actually fairly decently clear. There were parts that were thicker that we have already cleared, but this is the back corner that I'm working on my way towards now. And we'll get back here to this back corner and be able to use this fence line that you can kind of see a few of the fence posts here and there, but this is the kind of stuff I'm working with right now, having to find my way through and walk through all these vines. And this is definitely not the worst of it. Here's a few left, river cane. All these cane, there were a couple of spots that were really thick. And you could not get through it, even like I'm doing right now with this stuff. So back here is a nice fence line all the way along. And it raises up. I'm guessing once upon a time, previous owners did this intentionally because there's a nice little incline and then a serious drop off. And I'll walk through and find a spot here. So we're getting into the area that has been cleared. There's a bunch of stuff knocked down here that Michael's already been through with the brush cutter and knocked down. So that's what I'm working on, picking up and pulling all these vines out of the trees. Here's a thick little patch of river cane that still needs to be knocked down some. So we're getting back here to where we've cleared some. So just imagine what I just walked through is what all of this looked like. Some of it even thicker. You could not walk through it. The river cane was really, really thick. So this is the area I cleared yesterday and had a little burn pile going on here. I'm not going to burn today. I'm going to work on knocking stuff down. I'm going to do just on the other side of this fence and get this little drop off ridge line and probably back where I just came through and work on piling some stuff up because it is too breezy. Yesterday I had a couple of things pop out of the fire and had some stuff start smoldering over here in the leaves that were thicker until I kind of knocked all that down. And I had an ember fly all the way over here and had something smoking on the other side of the fence here. I had to pull everything under with my rake and get it taken over to the fire. So this is what I've worked on. Mostly I did all of this day before yesterday, and then I just did that little area back here yesterday. I didn't have as much time because I had to go do some stuff, get some barrels, so I didn't get as much done. Leave it. Get back, Misty. Leave it. You're going to burn your feet. There's probably coals in there. So, did all this yesterday, or day before yesterday, and this was a big area. I got a lot done here. Up to the water's edge, basically. Pulled down a lot of vines, raked up. This was where the cane was really thick. So I raked up a lot of cane that we had laying on the ground. And then we're getting back over here to the corner where I was trying to come in and couldn't because the water was too deep at this end. But this is pretty much what it looked like. All of it looked like previously. You had to pick and choose your way through. And I've got a pile started up over here. And this is the fence line over here. And this is where we originally went through when we first bought the property. Well, actually, before we even bought the property, we were looking at everything and wanted to get down to the river and see what everything was like. So we cut through the fence there. And this is the drop off back here into the creek runoff, basically, when we get really high water, a lot of rain, and a lot of mountain runoff, there is a creek that flows behind all the property, and there is a little bit of water in a deeper pool right over here, but most of the time whatever is in that little creek runs off over there and meets the river. There's a nice little channel over there that you could pretty much paddle up in with a kayak, and that is the southwest boundary of our property. And then over here we've got 220 feet of river frontage, and then right over here, I think you can see it, there's a little orange flag, and is our property line on the other side. There it is. And it's kind of hard to see, but the river is right there, and maybe one day we'll clear it enough to be able to see the river really well. But we have all kinds of awesome ideas that may one day come to fruition. And I just recently cleared along this edge here on this rise. We had some bushes that bees really like to get on that a friend gave us, so I planted them back here, and this is a different kind. I'm not sure what this is, but it has little thorns on it. And then we had like 5 of these little shrubs that get pretty little yellow flowers, and I planted 5 of them along here. They're kind of hard to see, but you can kind of see where I dug up the dirt and planted. But like I said, really good drop off right here. That's about 12 feet or so straight down. But along this back edge of the fence line, I want to clear it, but I don't want to clear it too much, because during the winter and when all the leaves die back, you can actually see across the cattle field on the other side of the river and see from the highway. And I don't want to clear it so much that we mess up our noise barrier and can see highway and vehicles from here. But looking down in here, you can kind of get an idea of what everything behind me looked like. And my plan is today to continue clearing, and I want to clear this stuff, which I'm just going to have to work my way through. I'm not even going to try to walk through it right now. It's really thick, and eventually all of that will look like all of that, and we'll be able to just walk right through it. I got another spot here where we took fencing out, and well, we will eventually repair all of that and add a few more strands of barbed wire and some hot wire to keep the dogs in and the critters out. But I really want to get the dogs more area to roam, because they need a lot more than the little area that they have right now that's about 25 feet by 100 feet behind the house. So slowly but surely I'm going to get all this cleared up and then get more fencing put up, and they will have the ability to roam out here. I've got Misty walking around with me. She's the older mama of the couple of puppies that only stay with you if they're on the leash. Sometimes they do good, but I have not worked with them enough to get them to stay with me and not run off, and that's my fault. But as they get older, they definitely get better, and once we get them a larger area to roam, it will be a lot nicer for them. That's a not so quick preview of the whole entire area we're working on clearing back here. And we're taking it from looking like this and impenetrable to looking like this and a beautiful little area that we're eventually maybe going to clear out more trees and try to plant some stuff back here. But I really just like how it looks, having lifted it, cut off some of the lower hanging branches so that we can walk under these trees, and then we'll have multi-generational trees going on back here that can grow up and be bigger